Once a month or so, we invite financial and business analyst Michael Campbell, who hosts a national top-rated radio business show on the Chorus Radio Network, to join us in television land to talk money talk. Everything from Greek bailouts to old-age pension reform and provincial budgets are on his mind. It is my pleasure to welcome Michael Campbell back to Studio 4 to tell us more.
There is so much to talk about. I was just saying, like, hey, girlfriend, we got to talk.
Yeah,
you know?
Hey, boyfriend, we do. And I'm telling you that we could do 2 hours on what's going on in the world today, financially, economically, fiscally, whatever you say. I mean,
you start with what the news of this week really was about Greece, and they said they got the bailout. That was, what it is, Wednesday today, so I guess Monday, Tuesday they announced this, but you know what? They've already been downgraded even further into junk bond status today. So what you're looking at is a very high probability of a bankruptcy in Greece. Now people say, well, yeah, I'm not going to Greece, so you know, what's the big deal?
But I have some drachmas in my bottom drawer, and
if
they're good again.
Yeah, well, they'll never be good again, but they may be currency again.
Okay.
But the issue is this, is that what we're seeing is a real erosion of the welfare state in Southern Europe, and of course in England's already made dramatic changes. Ireland has, France has been credit downgraded, Belgium has been downgraded. The whole thing is coming, you know, to real problems for us. It impacts us, of course, directly because we've got almost zero growth in Europe, you know, right now. So again, that hurts the trade, that hurts demand for commodities, that kind of thing. And it's kind of, I don't want to get too complicated here, but it actually impacts China a great deal, which has been one of our saviors, their demand for our commodities. Why? Because Europeans aren't buying the goods any longer, so the demand for commodities goes down because they're not manufacturing as much. But I'll just
So China wants more of our lumber, or what?
Yeah, well, they've been buying a tremendous amount of energy, a tremendous amount of base metals, interested even in our uranium. But you know, it's one of the
and
pushers.
raw saw logs and things like that.
That kind of stuff. So again, when Europe starts, you know, their consumers are not buying as much any longer. So again, that creates less demand for the manufactured goods out of China. China doesn't need to buy the natural resources. So we've seen a little bit of softening in the commodity markets right now.
Softening rather than heightening.
But let me just go back to Greece. First of all, what we're talking about, and I've been saying this for a number of years, we are entering, or we are in, a textbook time right now, that the same way people who don't know much about or aren't that interested in economics or finance still know there was something called the Great Depression, you know, and that was, of course, in the early 1929,
I was almost alive.
Yeah, I clearly was.
I was a thought.
Yeah. But in the early 30s, of course, and that's sort of a hallmark economic period for us. They're going through the same thing. Right now, their economy is contracting in a dramatic fashion, about 7%. The issue about their default really has to be is who pays that price? Who owns those Greek bonds? Who lent the money to Greece in the first place? Will there be implications when they default? So that's what this big rush was in the last couple of months. You've been reading a great deal about it because they had this bond issue coming due, just kind of like your mortgage is coming due, but nobody wanted to lend them any money.
Right.
You know, your mortgage is due, nobody wants to lend you money, you're out of your house. Well, in this case, they had about 14.5 billion euro, you know, what, $18 billion worth of bonds coming due March 20th. They didn't have the money.
Pretty much, you're out of your country.
Yeah, well, yeah, so it's a massive default, and what else does that mean? What are the legal implications? And that's why it's hard to even put a handle on what would happen on that. But it starts with Greece, and the big worry was, is it going to extend? Well, I think Portugal is right in the firing line right now. Again, you're talking about an economy that's actually decreasing dramatically right now.
Okay.
Then you look at Spain, which is much bigger. And keep in mind what's going on in Spain. Over 20% unemployment. And for youth, one of the things I've been saying is that we've been setting up a system that absolutely screws young people. Well, what about there? 46% unemployment, youth unemployment in Spain right now. Then you go to Italy, and that was the big worry as we came into November and December. Look what's happening in Italy. Same thing, huge levels of unemployment, especially among young people. This is a major problem that's just rippling throughout the world.
So question is, who is fully solvent in Europe? Could we say Germany, the Netherlands, and Finland and stop there? Or is it true?
You might just sort of go, yeah, I like Finland as Germany. No,
Germany,
stop there.
But the Netherlands, Finland, probably. I don't know.
Think about how tough this is for individuals now. We sit here, it's our RSP season and all this. But come on, if let's take the time frame back quite a few years, but we just go, okay, where's safety? Oh, government bonds. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? What do you mean, Greek government bonds, Spanish, Italy, Spain?
Sure.
As you say, this huge list, there's no safety there. Then someone would have said, oh, I know what the safety is. It's got to be in real estate. They're not making any more real estate. Well, try telling that to people in Phoenix and in San Diego and Miami and Detroit, and that's a bad one. Or tell them in Greece right now or Southern Europe. Okay, oh, what else? What about safety? Oh, it's got to be US dollars. Well, the US is in a lot of trouble. I believe the US dollar is going up in the shorter term, but its problems are going to hit the fan, I think, within 4 years, significantly.
One of the pundits last night suggested that the U.S. economy is getting stronger. They're seeing signs of that.
I'm glad you're actually bringing that up, because one of the things I'd encourage people to make this distinction, if they think about it and they grab all the headlines around the world, what are we reading about? We're reading about government. And this will be one, there's a lot of people who think through a political lens, and they really do have trouble seeing the reality of the fact. And that's why, by the way, people should be asking themselves, what the heck did happen in Europe? What's happened in many of the states and soon to hit the federal government level? What happened? How did they get to this mess that they're in? Japan, by the way, will be something we'll talk about, I think, within the year. But my point is, there's no lessons being learned here. But so I just want to come back to your statement. One is that this is a bear market in government. It's not a bear market in the private sector. And it's government that's shrinking. It's government that's under the gun right now. They can't afford the pension system they've promised in public sectors. They can't afford in the healthcare system. That's very clear. Like you look at the report from Ontario last week from Don Drummond. Very clear. They can't afford the healthcare system.
Former TD Bank economist, and respected.
Yeah, very respected, and former former deputy finance minister in Ottawa. Appointed by the McGuinty government, by the way. It's not like some something out of the blue.
But what did Drummond say about Ontario? Because they're in huge debt.
Exactly.
Not sustainable.
No, absolutely not, though. Absolutely not sustainable. And this is where the finance part comes in. Politics wants to fool around. And Ontario was a great example of, I think, the absurdity of politics and the inability of politics to handle these problems. For example, they have an election in October. All three major parties tell the public, yeah, I think we can balance the budget, because deficit's been a huge problem, 16 billion this year, 20 billion a couple of years ago. Their debt is increasing by 66 million a day, in Ontario. So, a little bit of a concern. But they all ignored it in the provincial election. All said we could balance by 2017, 2018. Mr. Drummond and a team of experts comes through and says, are you kidding me? No, it's $30 billion deficit at the rate you're going. That's not a rounding error. That's not just sort of, when you say it's going to balance and it's 30 billion, which would be an all-time record in the history of this country for a province. No. I mean, this just shows you the absurdity of the discussion that we have around these issues.